back, baby, and so is the DNVR Broncos podcast coming to you live from the Toyota Lounge, powered by your Front Range Toyota stores inside the DNVR Bar. We've got Henry Chisholm. We've got Kale behind the camera today, and Todd Davis is also back with us. Todd, how was the birthday trip?
Oh, man, we had a great time. Went down to Punta Mita and just had a wonderful time. My wife invited Jarrell and No Sean, my friends, to come and visit, and their girls. So we all had a good trip.
Was that part of surprise too?
Yeah, I had no clue. They walked by me in the airport. I tried to act like they didn't see me. But yeah, it was all a surprise.
That is awesome. So is that Mexico?
Yeah.
Dang.
So it's like not far from Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah.
No, I Googled it. It looks like a nice place.
No, it was fun. We had a good time.
Did you spell it right?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I threw the Punta M in, and then it kind of had the rest for me.
Yeah.
That's what I do on Google, too. If I don't know how to spell something, I just try my best, and usually it comes up as that little hyperlink.
Oh, yeah.
Click that.
I've turned old because what I'll do in that time is I'll just like voice text it to my
very
phone.
smart.
And then it comes up. Yeah. Or it doesn't, and I'm like, I have no idea how to find this thing now. So I'm glad you're back, Todd. We kept the thing alive.
Yeah.
We didn't burn anything down. Henry didn't drive me crazy.
No.
I didn't drive him away from the show.
True.
And we broke down the Broncos' path to the playoffs yesterday. But the Broncos are back now because OTAs officially starts today. And before we dive into that, and before we get into the news of the day, what is OTAs like as a player, Todd?
It's just kind of like setting the groundwork for what's going to happen in the season. So definitely diving into the playbook a lot, going through things. It's not as intense as training camp, but you're definitely trying your best to get the little ins and outs and details that you need to be successful throughout the season. You want to keep guys healthy, so we're going hard, but we're not everybody's working hard. I'm just gonna put it like that. Everybody's working hard. No tackling, not as physical, but definitely like the more mental side of the game is what you focus on during OTAs.
Is it still like half days, or is it full days of work now?
No, it gets longer. Pause. Longer than just the start of OTAs is very much. You're in there for maybe 3 hours and you're gone. These days start to get a little bit longer and more intense.
There's some psychos that really like the tackling part and are upset that there's no tackling. Were you upset that there was no tackling at this point? Did you want to go hit somebody?
No, I like tackling. I like hitting, but I don't need to hit somebody all day, every day.
Okay.
So, training, I feel like training camp and then 17 games is more than enough time to hit people. You don't need to be doing it in May.
Did you have teammates who wanted to hit people?
You have guys that are overly aggressive.
Yeah.
During OTAs and kind of pushing and shoving when it's not necessary. So maybe a few.
Okay. But no pads.
No pads.
Yeah, no pads.
Everything's spiders.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you better not hit anyone.
Exactly.
That'd do some damage.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to get into OTAs and what it means for the Broncos coming up and what we're most looking forward to. But we found out some very unfortunate news last night. Drew Sanders tore his Achilles, which is a brutal injury to have. He did that before the draft during the Broncos' first part of their offseason program, Todd, the one that you were kind of talking about where it's more so just a couple of hours of workouts every day. He tore his Achilles during that part, so before the draft. Apparently the recovery time is about 6 to 9 months, so if that happened in April, the 6 months, he'd be back in, October. If it's 9 months, he's not back until January. So there's some hope in the reporting that maybe he's back by the end of the season. But just brutal news for a guy that has a lot of talent and was going to have a role on this team.
Yeah, this one sucks. I think he was your second year is usually easier than your first. You know a little bit more. You're not, fresh into the game anymore. So I was excited to see what he's going to do this year. And those Achilles injuries are always tough because you never really know how guys are going to respond. Most of the time, I feel like now guys do better than in the past because, in the past, I feel like once you tore your Achilles, you were never the same.
Yep.
But I think most guys can bounce back, but it's still kind of iffy.
Yep.
So I hope that he recovers fast. I think Jonah Ellis makes a lot more sense now. But yeah, it's gonna suck not having him kind of continue to build on what he was able to do.
Yeah, he was one of the exciting young guys. Like one of the young guys with the high ceiling who could have broken out this year and become a really good player. And it sucks to lose one of those because the Broncos are kind of lacking that sort of thing right now. In terms of what's going to happen on the field, it seemed like he was probably going to play outside linebacker.
Yep.
And because of that, you do have 4 guys there who, like it shouldn't be a major loss on the field. Like you miss him in some sub packages. Like he was awesome when you kind of blitz him up the middle on third downs. But there are other guys who can do that. The big thing is just that there was a chance that he was going to take a big step, and if he was going to take a big step, then obviously it's a big loss. And for him, I mean, 2 years left on the contract after this, so he'll have some time to kind of settle back in. But
yeah, I mean,
it just sucks.
Henry, we talked about on the mailbag yesterday of why do you draft guys like Baron Browning who don't fully have a position entering the NFL, and Drew Sanders, where the negative is they don't fully have a position, but the positive is because they're just such freak athletes where they can play inside and outside. They have that raw skill set that just needs to be developed. So honestly, I think this hurts a guy like Drew even more just because, man, the attributes are there to potentially be like a first-round pick if he were developed as a pass rusher coming out, because he has the skills. And now to just take this full year of development away, oh, man, is just brutal. Now, we don't know if he was going to be a starter or not. Probably 2 days ago before this injury, if we were to make the depth chart, he probably wouldn't have been a starter, but he would have been a role player probably at outside linebacker. Some people would have made the case to move him inside to have him be a starter next to Alex Singleton, but I do think it was pretty clear that he was going to be an outside linebacker. And then, like you said, Todd, Jonah Ellis, it makes even more sense why they drafted him. The media and the outside people, we didn't know about this injury before the draft, but it happened before the draft. Yeah. So George Payton, Sean Payton, they knew about this injury. And like you said, Jonah Ellis now makes a lot more sense for this. The Broncos just keep going with third-round pass rushers to try to find one of these guys here. And instead of investing big with like a first-round pick like they did with Von Miller and they did with Bradley Chubb for the outside linebackers, they're just throwing pretty much every single third-round pick out there and hoping that one of these guys takes off. And now there's more pressure, and maybe not more pressure, but more opportunity for Jonah Ellis this year, because you could have made the case that maybe he's their number 1 pass rusher because of what he did with 12 sacks at Utah last year. You could have also made the case and said, look, he's a rookie who probably needs to put on more weight, who needs to continue to develop his game from the college level to the NFL level. Let's just put him as the 4th outside linebacker. Well, now he moves up at least 1 spot. Now he's the 3rd guy, and with Jonathan Cooper, with Baron Browning, with Nick Bonitto, those guys haven't proven that they are full-time starters. No one can take their job, so this is just more of an opportunity for Jonah Ellis right now.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot of playing time, especially in camp, because he'll get reps with the ones, and then if they do have a kind of a veteran rest day, Jonah Ellis will still be out there. He'll still be working. So no matter what, I think this is, it hurts the team overall, but specifically for Jonah Ellis, this gives him an opportunity to really go out there and shine and put his best foot forward, because I guarantee he'll probably take a majority of the reps in training camp.
Yep. And you've still got the 4 guys out there, but Jonathan Cooper and Baron Browning will be free agents after this year, which means the Broncos are probably going to have a hole at outside linebacker after the season, which they might have anyway. But in a perfect world, you would have left the season saying Nick Bonitto, Jonah Ellis, Drew Sanders. That's a good enough group. We don't need to spend money to go bring in somebody else. We don't need to use a high draft pick. We don't need to spend money to bring back one of the guys whose contracts are expiring. Without Drew Sanders, I don't think there's really a way to avoid having a hole at outside linebacker after the season. And you could probably patch it up. A lot depends on the season. Baron Browning could cost $4 million. He could cost $12 million. Jonathan Cooper, probably more expensive than that as of now, but you will probably need to add something unless you see so much from Jonah Ellis and Nick Bonitto that you say, we have 2 starting edge rushers, and we can trust Drew Sanders to kind of be the rotational piece at least in his year back.
And can you trust Drew Sanders to be the rotational piece? Because Like I said, the recovery time, 6 to 9 months. And kind of like you said, Todd, about the Achilles injury, like 20, 30 years ago, if you were to tear your ACL, that was like end of your career sort of thing. That was the injury you did not want to get because doctors and surgeries and technology and science hadn't come that far yet.
Yep.
Now you tear your ACL, it's like, oh man, that sucks. You got to miss a couple of months, but you'll be totally fine next year. It's not a big concern at all. Achilles, I feel like even like 10 years ago was like where ACLs were 20 or 30 years ago. You tore your Achilles. Oh man, I believe Ryan Clady tore his Achilles, and that was kind of the final injury that he had that he wasn't able to get over the hump with. And that was like, yeah, just over 10 years ago. That's one where it's just absolutely brutal. Now, we've seen guys like Emmanuel Sanders come back from torn Achilles, and we see more and more guys come back from torn Achilles. Drew is really young,
Yep.
so you have to imagine that helps with the healing process. What we're talking about, I mean, Henry, I think you texted in our group chat yesterday. You said what? Outside of being decapitated,
Yeah.
I think is what you said.
Something
Torn
like
Achilles
that.
is like the...
Like if you're just talking like realistic injuries, like Achilles has got to be the worst.
Yeah, and so that's why even though people are being optimistic with the reporting on this of it being 6 to 9
Yeah.
months, I'm not counting on Drew Sanders at all this season. And you know what? If Drew Sanders is going to come back and you're going to kind of rush him back to be back in December, what are you doing? If you need that help that bad
Yeah.
at outside linebacker, well, you know what? You're probably a 5-win team anyways. If you don't need the help, well, then slowly bring him back. And if he's able to provide something in a playoff push, great. But it doesn't make sense to rush him back for 3 games at the end of the season if you're jeopardizing anything with the future. And with Achilles, it's tied to your calf as well. We've seen, I think, like Klay Thompson
Yeah.
have calf injuries, and then he plays through them, and then it actually tears his Achilles because of how much it's tied to the calf. So for me, don't be thinking about bringing Drew back this year. If it happens naturally, fine. But I think Drew's just going to miss a lot, and then have him be healthy for next offseason so he can get fully ready for his 3rd season. Because, man, this is quite a setback for a young guy.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I think because he's a young guy, he'll still be on his rookie contract. I think you slow play it and you let him get back healthy. We've seen young guys like Vaughn get injured early in their career and find a way to bounce back. I don't think that
true.
this is the end of the road for him. I just feel like, so maybe a speed bump in his road, but he can ultimately get back, to playing at a high level and, being himself. So hopefully it's sooner than later, but definitely not this season. It's not necessary that they're trying to rush Aaron Rodgers back last year. Like, for what? Just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he's 45, 50. Almost. It's not worth it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like Cam Akers was the one who rushed back, like the 5.5 months, but he hasn't been the same since he came back. And it seems like running backs in particular really struggle. I'm not sure what J.K. Dobbins has done since he tore his, but I don't remember him doing great. I know James Robinson, he was like a starting back, and then there were some other things happening, but that was kind of the big one and hasn't really found a spot. I think Tariq Cohen played 4 years in the NFL, and the 4th he tore his Achilles, and then he was just done.
Yeah.
So running backs have kind of struggled. I can't think, like Vaughn didn't.
ACL.
No.
Vaughn was
Yeah.
ACL,
Yeah.
that's right. But yeah, hopefully it works out, but Achilles is, I mean, that's a major injury, obviously.
Did you ever have anything with your Achilles? Obviously,
Just
you never
calves.
tore it, but yeah.
Calves, no.
Did
Maybe some tenderness, but
was there a concern either on your part or doctor's part about the Achilles after the calves?
no, because my calf tears were so high in my calf. They weren't like lower. Like there's 2 muscles in your calf. I think I kept tearing the bigger one, which is like higher up. But you got this lower one down here that directly connects to your Achilles. That if you start messing with it, is kind of like scary territory.
Yeah, there's some, I think maybe like the only scary movie I've ever watched, it might have been a Saw or something, where they like cut their Achilles tendons off at the bottom,
Wow.
like just a saw
And
goes
you
right
can't
through
do
them.
nothing.
And they like, I don't know if it's true, but they just like fall forward because the Achilles tendon wasn't holding their leg together. Yeah, it sounds like an absolutely terrible injury.
Yeah.
But something that the Toyota chat's been talking about a little bit. I've seen a couple of comments in their the Toyota chat, powered by my favorite Forerunner, is that the Broncos are going to be fine with this Drew Sanders because they have Jonas Griffith.
Uh-huh.
I I think that drafting Jonah Ellis shows us that Drew Sanders was going to be the outside. The last time we had got official word from the team on if Drew was going to be inside or outside was George Payton at the Combine, so middle of February, end of February. And he said they're still working on if he's going to be inside or outside, but he said we're leaning toward outside. So I don't think this impacted their plans at all with the inside linebacker. I do think this was outside. Do you think, because this happened before the draft, do you think if Drew doesn't get hurt, they still draft Jonah Ellis?
That's a great question. I don't know, because they went. That was their second pick in the draft.
Yeah.
So he was definitely necessary, and they felt like they lost maybe a core piece that they thought they would have. I'm gonna say maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe you do take a pass rusher, edge rusher, because we talked about it was a position of need.
Yep.
Or maybe you take him in the 5th round instead of the 3rd round. So maybe not.
Yeah. I would said before the draft I wouldn't, because you already had 4 guys who, like, that's a deep rotation.
Yep.
And they might not be great football players. We're still trying to figure out who is and who isn't. But adding a 5th young guy to a group where you're already kind of struggling to find reps, I was kind of against it, unless it was like a 1st round pick, somebody who comes in and just jumps to the top immediately. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it factored in somehow.
I completely agree. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have 5. You're probably going to have 4 at that position. And if you have to have 5, that's fine. You're probably not going to dip below 4 at the outside, just like the same with the inside. But after them already saying that he was probably going to be outside, doesn't really make sense. So I probably think that, Todd, they probably do go edge rusher in the 5th, not with their 2nd pick in the draft. So this is something we're going to be following. Really unfortunate news. But like I said, the Broncos are back on the field today. Let's break down what we want to see from OTAs, but I gave a shout out to the Forerunner in the Toyota chat, because the Toyota chat is powered by the Forerunner, and I went over to Toyota.com this morning, and they have a little quiz, a little survey you can take to find out which car best suits you. So I did it, and it gave me 3 cars. Can you guys guess which cars it gave me? And you're going to be, I was going to say, you're going to be wrong if you go that route like the Toyota chat typically goes, saying I'm a Prius boy. No, incorrect. They gave me my Forerunner.
Okay, yeah.
They gave me...
What did you say on this?
I said I need something to overcompensate. No. They gave me the Sequoia, which is even bigger than the Forerunner and so cool on the inside. And then they gave me the BZ4X. You know what that stands for?
No.
Yeah, I don't know what it stands for either, but it's their all-electric car, which is awesome as well. And so if you want to find out what Toyota best fits you, go to Toyota.com, or you can visit a Front Range Toyota store where there are so many around. If you live in Colorado, there's a Toyota store close to you. Check them out, your local Front Range Toyota store at AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. I'm going to quiz you guys on that soon. I need you to know all the Front Range Toyota stores soon.
Oh, boy.
Toyota, the official vehicle partner of the NFL and the official vehicle of DNVR.
Also, got to give a shout out to our friends at Bet365. I guess I'm betting on the Rockies now that all the bad things happen to all the other teams.
Did you pull out of that bet that you had? You didn't take the money?
No.
Oh.
I lost that bet. I lost actually a lot of bets this weekend, which is a real shame. But the Rockies can get that money back quickly because they are underdogs in every game.
The rest of the season.
I would imagine. There's no way they're favored. Actually, no. They have like a series coming up. I think the Guardians are good. They play a bad team. I think maybe over the weekend. It's either starting today or it's over the weekend. So maybe not. There it is. The A's. Yep. So the A's the next 3 days. They actually will be. I'm going to double check before I say anything official. They are underdogs.
Wow.
Plus 115 against the A's. That stings. Maybe tomorrow, though. It probably just depends on the pitchers. If you want to get crazy, you can bet on them to make the playoffs. And the odds would be 33-1. So, put $20 on it. You get $660.
Yeah, probably don't do that.
Yeah, probably don't. Yeah, Bet365, it's never ordinary. For those of you who can still watch the playoffs without being sad, awesome spot. For the rest of us, we'll just bet on the Rockies. They have a bet and get offer. If you use the code DNVR365 when you sign up, you place a bet of $5 or more, you get $150 in bonus bets. You could also take the first bet safety net offer. You place a bet up to $2,000. If your qualifying bet loses, you receive a matched refund and bonus bets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
How important are OTAs, Todd? We talked about like what it looks like, but how important are they, and what can we as outsiders or even insiders learn from OTAs?
I think they're the most important for the young guys. If you're an older vet and you're in the same system, they're not really necessary. So even though Courtland would do well, I guess, connecting with Bo Nix right now and kind of build that chemistry, as far as the playbook, like when to run this route based on where the safety is, do you turn into a post or do you turn into a go? Like, he knows all of that information. So I think OTAs is more about bringing the young guys up to speed, getting them familiar with the playbook, and kind of them giving them just a little bit of a step up so that when they go into training camp, they're not just wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, I guess.
That's a perfect lead-in to exactly my biggest takeaway that I want to see this OTAs, which is the next 3 weeks, and then that fourth week is a mandatory minicamp. We're going to be able to watch at least one practice every week. I think we'll be out there later this week on Thursday, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But the biggest thing that I want to see, shocking, Bo Nix. Young guy, this is important for him, extra important because he's a quarterback, and because he really has an opportunity to win this starting job. I want to see him continue to build off the success that we saw in rookie minicamp, and specifically, just does he continue to know these things, because it's going to be more install for him, and it's going to be a lot more hectic, I would imagine, with vets around. They're probably going at a faster pace. Sean's going to be making this thing crank up a little bit. See if he just looks as comfortable as he did during rookie minicamp, because if he does, that's the biggest thing I have to imagine for any rookie, is being able to take all this information and not feel lost, not seem confused, see like they know everything that they're doing, and be able to tell veterans, like, no, you're in the wrong spot, because he did that a couple of times to rookies, which I was really impressed with. But make sure that he has a full command of this. And so to take that one step further, I want to see if he's getting starting reps. I want to see if he's working with the ones, if he's getting all the reps with the ones, if he's working with the twos exclusively, or if he starts, let's say, with the threes, because they have three quarterbacks. By the end of it, has he moved up to number 2? Has he moved up to number 1? Is he getting 1 reps? Where that's going to be? So unsurprisingly, when you have a rookie first-round quarterback, all eyes are on him. And it's even more important with what you said about how these are even more important for the younger guys.
Yeah. I hope he's with the ones. I don't know what benefit it is to have him with the threes right now.
Yep.
I think he needs to be as comfortable as he can with Garen Bowles and McGlinchey and talking to them, and so they get an understanding for how he, takes his drops and gets set up. But like you said, I think it is important to see him around the veterans and how he does. I think it's not easy being a first-round draft pick. When you get to camp, especially a rookie mini camp, I am the guy. I'm the first-round draft pick. This is my squad. I kind of know I have leadership over everybody's here. Okay, now when you get to, OTAs, okay, you got 7-year vets, 8-year vets, other first-round picks. You got guys making $15, $20 million a year. Like, can you command them just like you did these other rookies?
Right.
I think it's important to see.
So when you're a vet and you have a rookie, whether across from you or next to you or in your room, specifically like a first-round pick, a high draft pick, how long does it take for them to either earn or lose your respect?
Oh, that's tough. I think you can lose it very quickly, and it may take a little bit more time to earn it. Like, if you come in there and you're just not serious, you think, you can kind of show up when you want and do what you want to do. You're not really treating this like a business and coming to work with your hard hat on. I think you can lose the respect of your peers very quickly.
Yep. So kind of big time in everyone.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you can do that easier as a 5-star recruit going into USC. I'm sure you can kind of big time some people because you might start as a freshman. But like you said, in the NFL, it's not just like a 2 or 3 year gap between the freshmen and the juniors, freshmen and seniors. You could have what was Kareem, a 14-year vet last year?
Exactly.
Working with some rookies. So a guy that's almost 15 years older than you could have on your team.
Yeah, and it's everything that you bring to the table most of the time is nothing that you feel like is cool. It's nothing that we haven't seen in the locker room before. If you've been in the locker room for 6 or 7 years, I've seen first-round draft picks come and go. I've seen guys make, $30 million a year, and I've seen the guys outplay them and make $500,000 every year. Come to work, man, and show up and be ready to work. It doesn't really matter about when you got drafted because, honestly, you either come play or you'll be the other first-round draft pick that's booted in 2 years because he couldn't handle it. We've seen it all. You can't impress us with just being the first-round draft pick. We love that you're here if you're in an important position that can help us win, absolutely. But we want you to come in here and, work as hard as we work.
Yeah. It just seems like such a fine line.
Yeah.
There's that clip of Bo, I can't remember which game it was, but it was a third down, and the running back just sees a little space and kind of leaks out of the backfield, and Bo tries to throw him the ball, but he just stops instead of running out to the flat, and Bo just screams at him. It's full on honestly, it reminds me of the Tom Brady scream, where he just gets really he gets the crazy eyes going, and that's a good quality to have in a quarterback to hold guys accountable, but also I don't know, you don't scream at Court. Definitely don't scream at Court week 1. Not that he's going to be there. Well,
that's a good question though, because do you treat, if you're a rookie quarterback, do you treat I'm trying to think, Brandon Johnson different than Courtland Sutton? Let's say they both make the exact same mistake week 3 of OTAs, and you're the quarterback for both of them. Do you treat them both the same?
I honestly feel how you correct someone is based on the relationship we have. If I'm hanging out with you and we're together every day and we're talking about different things, and it's 3 months in and we built this rapport, and then you go out and do something that we've already talked about, I have the ability to kind of get pissed off and let you know how I'm feeling because we have a relationship. Day one, no, you can't do that. We haven't built this rapport. You can't just be coming out here screaming. I don't even know you. Better shut up. Because rookies get rookie punishments too. Don't get it twisted, first round or not. So I think it's over time, he needs to do that. If there's something that we've worked on, or if they really want to be perfect and it's important to Bo and he wants to make it important to the team, he has to be able to kind of, lose it sometimes with different players because they haven't done it. But you only do that once you have a relationship with guys and they can understand where you're coming from. And then, off the field, there's no issues. But on the field, we need to be perfect.
Yeah, and you probably don't need to be screaming at anybody for, I don't know, reading a safety wrong, running the wrong route, at least the first time. If it happens 3 times, then all of a sudden, that might be what needs to happen, especially in OTAs. It's it's just really tough to imagine somebody screwing up so badly on the first day of OTAs that the quarterback needs to be screaming at somebody.
He shouldn't scream at anybody the entire OTAs.
Probably not.
That's fair.
It should be conversations.
Yes.
Hey, I threw that here because he sat. Did you see him sit down? Okay, when you see him do that, in my mind, this is what I'm thinking. So next time, just get here and we can be perfect.
Okay. And then I go and do the exact same thing wrong again the next day.
And then you just go say, hey, Sean, I don't think me and him are working together.
Oh, man, it just reminds me of Peyton Manning. We've seen all the viral clips of Peyton and Tom, whether it's during practice, whether it's during a game. And Peyton, there's a very famous one of him. Who's the center? Jeff Saturday. He's screaming at Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday chirps back. We've also heard the stories of, Cody Latimer in training camp. Very, very talented as an athlete, but he didn't follow Peyton's directions, and so he just wasn't on the field. And it was exactly that. It was Cody's not going to be on the field, and the coach is okay, Cody's not going to be on the field. And it's that. But I'm so curious with Peyton, with Tom, Peyton specifically, since he was a first-round pick. At what point did he feel comfortable doing all of that? Because these are examples of much later in his career, but Peyton didn't wait till year 10 to become that sort of leader. And then Peyton also went out his rookie season, was a number 1 overall pick, so had all the trust of the organization, and he certainly lived up to that and way more. But he also went out his rookie season and threw the record number of interceptions as well. So he was messing up too. So it's very interesting. And Bo has been a 3-year captain. a year at Auburn, 2 years at Oregon. So if anyone's going to know how to kind of work around this and understand it, it probably is Bo.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a very interesting dynamic to kind of follow. At what point do we see from an outside that switch turn?
Yeah.
Because you're right. It can't be right away. He can't be yelling at people right away.
Yeah. Now I think about it, probably not this whole year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe if like Troy Franklin messes up on something,
Right.
we got a relationship, I can kind of let you have
Yeah.
it. Everybody else, we just, you know what I'm saying? We learning.
Yeah.
When do you
Getting
think the
going.
first time Sean screams at Bo is?
Day one.
See,
Day one, he does. Yeah.
I can see that, but I can also see it being what you said about
It's a
Bo.
conversation.
It could be an entire year before we see anything because Russ was not Sean's guy.
Yep.
Bo is Sean's guy, and I think Sean knows the public perception. I don't think we're going to see, at least on game day,
Yep.
that a television cameras. Maybe not though. In the heat of the moment, I could see.
I don't think so.
Third
But
bad read on a third down.
Yeah, but it's
fourth
not
quarter.
It's not going to be like we didn't see Sean do this to Drew Brees. So it's not like Sean does this all the time, where he truly loses it. Maybe will we see him frustrated? Yes, but will we see Lions game where Sean is just MFing him on the sidelines and it's so obvious and there's no response? It's not a conversation. It's just screaming at him. I'm gonna say no.
Yeah,
we
I don't think
don't
so
see
either.
that.
Yeah.
No, I think he knows he has to teach Bo Nix a lot of things, and I know that he's gonna feel like he has to work with him. I think the thing that, in my opinion, one of the things he didn't like about Russ is like, okay, Russ, you're this 10, 11, 12-year vet. Like, there's certain things as quarterback I expect you to know.
Right.
And if I'm still having conversations with you about it, like, now I'm really frustrated because I feel like I should be teaching you, D or F, and we got to go back to A, but this is something you should have learned in year one.
Yeah.
So I think that's what like really pissed him off with that.
Yeah. It also feels like I don't have like data to back this up, but I feel like Tom Brady yelled at Bill Belichick more than Belichick yelled at Brady. Or whenever they went at it, it seems like Brady kind of was yelling first. It also seems like Peyton Manning more of the yeller than getting yelled at. And again, like those are kind of the lofty examples.
Sure.
But I almost think the quarterbacks do the yelling more. And on the flip side, like my other thought is that Bo Nix is like a real football player. Not that we spend a lot of time with him, but Russ is like a super nice, kind of friendly sort of personality. Bo is a little bit more of like I'm here to play football, and we're gonna like. It's a good attitude to have, but I also think it's an attitude that lends itself to being yelled at. you know,
He was asking for it.
well, I mean, like, not because he did
Let's
something, but
go.
like because he can take it. Like different people need to be coached differently, and like I'm sure you could think of a teammate. Like in my mind, you could probably yell at Akib. You could probably yell at TJ as a coach.
Why would you
Yell at
You
a
think they're not yelling back?
I guess they might.
maybe-
I
those are
mean,
the two
maybe
people I'm not
you
yelling
For
at.
sure.
But I mean,
We've
like,
all gotten in situations like, and I think it's like this. We've all been in situations where we've gone back and forth with our coaches and gotten whatever it may
Yeah.
be, and it's when you're right. When you're wrong,
Yes.
you're coaching, man, you're like, man, I missed it. Look, I got you. You know what I'm saying? Still don't get too crazy, but I hear what you're saying. But when you're like right and you feel like your coach missed it, all right, look, you're gonna stay your ground, but I have to stand my ground.
Right.
And now at the same time, like you can't talk to any man disrespectfully. I think there's a way
Definitely.
to come about it.
Right.
So I don't know. That's just how
I
I
also
feel about
think
it.
like, I mean, football coaches yell. Like it's what they do. Like I know it's kind of changed a little bit in the last 10 years or so with like all the younger coaches who try to be like people's friends, which isn't a bad thing. But like football coaches yell at players, and there's definitely some players who like some people take that better, while others need to be coddled a little bit more. And that's where like Russ isn't somebody you yell at to motivate him. It just kind of makes him sad.
Yeah.
I see
what
there
you're
are
saying.
some people who can be like, you effed that up. Like, what were you thinking? And Bo seems like he could take that a little bit more than somebody like Russ could.
I see what you're saying, and I also think it's kind of like that saying from Mike Tomlin. I'm gonna treat you all fair, but I'm not gonna treat you all equal. And I think that's one of the things that maybe Bill Belichick did so well as a head coach. We've heard the stories that he was not afraid to go after Tom
Yeah.
Brady just as much as he wasn't afraid to go after the 53rd man on the roster in terms of meetings. And so if you're able to put Tom Brady in their place, then that means that Tom Brady can go after his starting center. And just like the starting center could then go after him. But after all of that happens, they probably all sit together and have a beer together, and we do that, and we go over to our friends over at Coors Light. And because when it's time to chill, when you need to take a step back and chill after having a friendly argument, after screaming at your coworker, which probably doesn't work in most circumstances, but I guess in the NFL it does, or after watching your teams go down in awful fashion over the weekend. Coors Light is the beer that we over at DNVR reach for. I'm rocking a very cool Coors Light sweatshirt. So if you want to get your hands on Coors Light, it is all about chilling. It is brewed cold. It is bottled cold. It is served cold, all the way to the extent that they have the Rocky Mountains turn blue when it is cold on their cans and on their bottles. So if you need to chill, go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR, where that's going to get you Coors Light delivered straight to your door via Instacart at CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
And shout out to us. You guys know we do a lot of great events here at DNVR, and we have a couple more coming your way that we're super excited about. First off, we are headed to Tampa Bay this year.
Let's go.
It's going to be a great trip, lots of fun. We were going to New Orleans, but we switched it because we were like, Tampa Bay, the weather, the water. Weather, water. The other one is women, but I'm not going to say that. WWW, waves, water waves. Yes, there you go.
There we go.
We're going to have a great time in Tampa Bay. You guys don't want to miss it. So you can head to truefantravel.com to get the details on that. It may still say New Orleans. They're going to get it all switched around. You be on the lookout because you don't want to miss this trip. Also, you can join us for our second annual DNVR Midsummer Open Golf Tournament at Broken Tee. The Big Drive Energy Golf Tournament invites you to the Midsummer Open Broken Tee Golf Course for an 8 a.m. shotgun start 4-person scramble brought to you by Circa Resorts and Casinos, Toyota, Breckenridge Brewery, and Shady Rays. And I'm going to be ready. I'm prepared. If you can see me right now, I have on a little polo because I have a tea time at 1 p.m.
Oh,
so
let's
I
go.
am practicing daily, so you don't want to miss how all that practicing comes together. You can head to thednvr.com to secure your spot.
You mentioned we're going to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
See Broncos, Bucks. Who would you rather have right now at quarterback, Bo Nix or Baker Mayfield?
Bo Nix. For the future?
For the future, yes.
Yes, from right now moving forward.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bo
yeah,
Nix.
definitely.
Okay, I agree.
In terms of, like, who do you just want, like, week
for
one?
that game, for week 3?
You'd probably go with Baker
That's
for,
fair.
like, Baker over rookie. Yeah, week 3. Yeah, I'd probably go Baker.
Yeah, but for long term, I agree. I'd rather go Bo.
Definitely.
Okay, so Bo's going to be taking the first snaps. That's what we're most looking forward to at OTAs. What are the other things that you're most looking forward to see or hope to see or hope to know once OTAs is over?
Healthy. I'm not going to. I'm looking for
Yeah.
everybody to stay healthy. I think OTAs is tricky in that regard, to where things can happen. But ultimately, I want the Broncos to stay healthy because usually, if you can be a healthy team, you can beat some pretty good teams just because you got everybody on the field. So I want to see all them boys healthy.
Yeah, I mean, typically the team that wins the Super Bowl is one of the least injured. We
Yep.
saw it last year. The Chiefs, I think they were the least injured team, or second least injured team in the NFL, and they won the Super Bowl. You know who the least injured team was last year?
Who they played in the Super
The Denver
Bowl.
Broncos. Crazy
there
enough.
we go.
So it doesn't always correlate. Your 2015 team, Todd, the
Yeah.
Super Bowl 50, incredibly healthy outside of Peyton Manning, which is kind of wild to be like outside of the starting quarterback. They were incredibly healthy, but you guys were. You had all the dogs on defense, all the guys on offense, at least come the playoff time. And so that is just so big to be healthy. There's one guy that I really, really, really want to see stay healthy that has had issues with in the past.
Tim Patrick.
Oh, that's a good one.
Greg Dulcich.
Greg
Yeah.
Dulcich. That's who I'm really looking forward to be healthy because he just has not been healthy. He has not put a full season of health together in a long time. And all of last offseason, he stayed healthy. And he was talking about how he changed his offseason routine to be just to work on the hamstring specifically. And it all seemed like it was good until like the very first play of the season, and then he gets hurt. So I'm really looking forward to that hamstring staying healthy because the Broncos are kind of rolling the dice on him to stay healthy. They did not make a move at tight end this offseason. They re-signed Troutman, but they're really hoping that Dulcich is healthy there. And the Broncos have a lot of pieces at receiver. Broncos have a lot of pieces at running back, but they don't have that just like jump out number one guy at either of those positions. Yep. Greg Dulcich is that guy at tight end, but he has to be healthy there. So that's what I'm really crossing my fingers for, is the health of the entire team, but specifically Greg Dulcich.
Yeah. I don't even need him to be like fully healthy all season. Just give me like 12 games. Even like he played 10 games his rookie season, and at this point, like 10 games sounds pretty nice. Like if he just goes out there and is on the field more often than not, I kind of look at this season as a win in that regard.
But if he's not healthy, this is his last hurrah. Like if he does 12 games, I think even if he does okay in those 12 games, I think it's night.
I mean,
I thought you were finding like a nice way to say it. You go with night. Yeah, I mean, he's got one more year on the contract, so he could probably be like a rotational tight end after that. I mean,
you got to be making a move at tight end after this year.
Oh,
He's
definitely.
only
You
playing
definitely
10
got to make a
games,
move.
though.
But I don't know. Like, it's just so hard to see it happening. That if you can just have like, he feels like a bonus to me. If you get that bonus for 12 games, I'm calling it a win for this year.
Man, so that means I have to imagine that you're just not counting on him this year.
I mean, you can't, right?
Yeah,
like
I would
we've been down this road a couple times now, and I don't know, hamstrings sometimes like it's just a weird injury. You know, they last forever. So, I mean, hopefully he's out there and he's healthy and plays every game the next year and the year after that. But realistically, if you can just if you can get like a couple 100-yard games out of him, that would be crazy. Like that would be just such a big boost to the offense when he is available. Like I'd love to have him every week. If he's not there every week, I'm not gonna be shocked, but you just hope that he's productive when he's healthy.
So we're looking for Bo. We're looking for health. Henry, what else are we looking for?
I want to see the cornerbacks and the receivers. I think those are some weird matchups because, you know, I think having Court would balance it out a little bit because you have Pat on the defensive side and you know Pat's just going to win. But when you look at all those guys, like, give me Riley Moss versus Josh Reynolds. What happens? Give me Damari Mathis against Tim Patrick, who hasn't played in a couple of years. Marvin Mims and Levi Wallace. Like, all these matchups, all of them like kind of cross match too, just have like interesting pieces. Like Levi Wallace and Marvin Mims. The knock on Levi coming out was that he's just not super fast. And because of that, you know, it just makes it tough to be a starting quarterback when you're, I think he was mid 4.5s, maybe something like that. And as he's gotten older, you know, those are the issues that kind of flared up last year that got him benched. So what happens when he goes up against Marvin Mims? Like, does he find a way to hold his own? What happens when he goes up against a Tim Patrick, another guy who, you know, a little bit older, not quite as speedy, but both of them very physical, attack the ball. You know, it's just going to be interesting to see which group kind of comes out on top, because I think that they're in kind of similar places in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And we're going to see those matchups a lot.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I said the wide receivers. I think they got it right now.
It's just tough without Court.
Well, and that's where I want to go with this is I want to see Courtland Sutton out here at OTAs. We do not expect Courtland to be out there at the start of OTAs. It's going to be very interesting. Once mandatory minicamp comes around, does Courtland Sutton show up? He's scheduled to make, I think, just over $13 million in cash this year. If he does not show up for those 3 days of mandatory minicamp, he is going to be fined, or he could be fined, $100,000. I don't care if you're making $13 million or not. That's a lot of money right there to miss out on.
I don't know. If you're making $13 million, I don't know if you're missing $100,000.
That's fair. I guess maybe like a private jet to get from Florida, I think, where he's training to Denver might cost that anyway. So
Yeah. Maybe a little bit less.
That reminds me, you see, like, we don't need to go down this whole rabbit hole, but Scarlett Johansson was upset that like the Chat GPT AI voice sounded like her.
I just saw the headline.
Yeah, so I didn't dig too deep either, but then I saw another headline where they had offered her, it's like, can we use your voice and we'll pay you to use your voice? And she said no.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy to me because I would imagine it's like a solid amount of money. and they don't need her to actually do any work.
Right. Just use
Yeah.
something that sounds like her voice.
So that's kind of where I was at. Was like, that's just free money where you have to do nothing. Now, if they
Wow.
wanted her to like
That's
do commercials
copyright,
for it or
yeah.
something, that's different.
Right.
But I mean, that's just like money that you literally don't have to work for. Like they don't even need your voice; they make your voice.
We were asked a couple of years ago by DNVR, by management, if we were okay with them trying out software that ads play using our voice and we're not actually saying it. I don't think that's happened yet, but if I say anything crazy, I'm just going to blame
Yeah.
it on that.
That is
So
strange.
that wasn't me.
AI.
That was the AI.
Yeah, it's good that we have that out there now, though, so that if it happens,
After the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to see Court. I would love to
Yeah.
see him show up. I don't know if that's going to happen without a new deal. And we're going to talk with our guy, James Palmer. He's going to be joining us tomorrow. We're also going to talk to Brian Baldinger to get
Yep.
the update on where things stand with Courtland Sutton. Is a deal going to happen? Is a deal not going to happen? If a deal doesn't happen, is Courtland Sutton going to show up before this? Is he going to hold out for training camp? We're going to get an update tomorrow. But Courtland Sutton is your third highest paid player on the team? You have Mike
It might be-
McGlinchey.
Oh, yeah, 'cause
you
Pat hasn't
have
Bowles.
Bowles, and then I
It
think
might
it
be.
might be Court because
Yeah.
I think Ben Powers is just underneath
Yep.
it. He's your third. He's your guy that had the most touchdowns for you in
Yep.
a decade since DT or Emmanuel were here. You need him, especially with the
Exactly.
young quarterback.
does he have your
so-
last 1,000-yard season too? Like from
Oh,
any
for
position?
For sure,
Yep.
probably.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, unless
I think
Phil
they
Lindsay
tied.
did it in 2019 as well,
I think they tied. Phil and Court both had it that year.
Mm.
and then nonsense.
Nonsense for the entire
That
team.
is wild. The only position
Yeah.
to go over 1,000 yards is quarterback,
Yep.
and have over 10 touchdowns.
I wonder
I
if
think.
Marvin Mims did with the returns.
Do those count?
No, they don't. But like, if we're trying to find a way.
Yeah, I don't even
still
know
don't
because
think
there's
he
so
did.
few returns.
Exactly. I don't think there's enough.
That'll change this year, though.
I just did the math on Courtland. If he loses 100,000,
Yeah.
that's like making 50,000 for a year and losing like $380.
Man,
Wow. Wow.
that's
insane, right?
totally fair. And actually, when it came to Jamal Murray being fined $100,000, I think he
Yeah.
makes like 45 million,
45 or
40
50,
something.
yeah.
That was the equivalent of someone making $100,000 getting fined $200.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
like a speeding ticket. It's a slap on the wrist. So
Yeah.
you're right. I actually agree with you. I take back what I said. You're right. He can miss. He can miss us. That's fine. No worries.
We still want him there though.
Yeah,
We
no,
do,
we
yes.
want him there, but
Yeah.
he's probably like,
How much is it?
I made that yesterday. Doesn't matter. Okay, so those are a couple of things. What else are we looking for, Todd? What sticks out to you?
Defense. I think defense as a whole needs to get off to a faster start. With some new pieces at safety, new pieces at linebacker, new pieces in the interior D line. I think it's important for them to kind of start fast. I don't want to have terrible games in the beginning of the season just to find our footing later on. I think we have enough guys that went through it last year to kind of like let guys know how to get right. But ultimately, whenever you add that many new pieces that are all potential starters, you want to see how they operate together.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very true. And see how Vance works with those guys
Yep.
and see how much is new and how much is old.
Yep. I want to see who the starters are. I think in particular at quarterback, like, are they rotating
Yeah.
through all those three guys? Running back's the other one, but I'd imagine everybody's going to be rotating there. It seems like that's usually what happens. If not, that'll be crazy. But then other than that, you go back to the normal positions. Like, who are the top three receivers right now?
Yeah.
Because
And talking about, especially without Court, who would you guess if you put out a starting three receivers?
three would have to be
Without Court.
Patrick, Reynolds, and Mims.
Yeah.
But two, it
Yeah,
gets
it would.
tougher.
Man, it does get tougher. Who would? I mean,
don't
Tim
know.
Patrick's fully healthy right now, so I feel like it has to be him.
And Reynolds, right?
I would think, but
Yeah.
Marvin Mims, you're not going to have him on the field?
I mean,
He's not your two even without Courtland?
Reynolds had almost
I-
twice as many yards last year.
Yeah, I just think he's the only one that hasn't done it yet.
It's true.
So for that, like,
It's true.
knowledge, expertise, and like veteran
Yeah.
play and presence, I feel like you would take the two older
Probably.
guys if they're both healthy. Right
Especially
now.
in OTAs. Like, if Marvin Mims isn't one of the two starters, he can't be upset about that. if Josh Reynolds isn't one of the two starters and he gets upset, you'd be like, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Right.
So like in OTAs, like everybody's going to be rotating. You can throw the two vets out there first.
And I think you have still for Marvin, I think they're still figuring out like what all can he do. I know he can go like a slot fade and take a guy vertical.
Yep.
But like, can he run the full route tree? Can he catch intermediate routes? Is he scared coming across the middle on like a deep drag? Like, I think for the other receivers, you kind of know, their toolbox. I think for Marvin Mims, they're still creating his. So that's how I feel.
Yep.
And then so that's why one of the biggest things I'm looking for in OTAs, what I'd really, if I could wish for something, I'd wish for either Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin to really stand out, because we know what Courtland Sutton brings to the team. We know if Tim Patrick is healthy, what he brings, Josh Reynolds as well. But that game changer, whether it's the speed, the breakaway, the deep, is Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin. That's where you're getting that from if you're going to get it from that receiver position. And to see one of those guys stand out would be so refreshing, because then you could look at the receiver room and be like, you got it all.
Yep.
You got the big guys, you got the reliable guy, you got the slot guy, you also have now your speed guy. If neither of those guys stands out, you're just not really going to have that consistent playmaking on offense and at the receiver position, which is so key to helping a rookie out. And we've seen rookie receivers struggle left and right all the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if Troy Franklin struggles this year, and if Marvin Mims still takes another year to really get there. But that's why that would be such a refreshing thing to be like, man, going into the season, the Broncos do have a playmaker at the receiver position.
Yep. Definitely. Then cornerback is the kind of the same.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember, because Fabian Moreau wasn't getting starting reps at this point last year.
I don't think so.
No.
It was Damari.
Yep. Oh, of course it was Damari. Yeah. But then training camp even. And that's where Levi Wallace is my point. Is like it's a very similar situation where you bring him in, and if ideally Damari's the starter, or Riley's the starter, or Chris Abrams-Drain's the starter. But this is one where I don't think they just bank on somebody being a veteran, just because they didn't really last year. But again, Damari was assumed to be the starter because he played so well for the last 10 weeks or whatever. It's a different situation, but I don't know how they look at Damari and Riley, because those are the two returners. Who's in front of the other? And then Abrams-Drain, you would imagine, starts behind them. And then Levi Wallace really could fit in anywhere.
Then there's one more position where I'm curious to see how it fits as well. Center.
Yeah.
Are the Broncos just going to name Alex Forsythe the starting center at the start of OTAs and just have him get as many reps with Bo? Does he kind of follow Bo around, whether it's 1, 2, or 3? Do they rotate? Because they have like 3 or 4 guys that they could realistically rotate. Who did they sign? Why can't from the Bears?
Sam Mustipher.
Yep, Sam Mustipher. They also have Luke Wattenberg. And then, of course, Alex Forsythe. And the kid they drafted in the 7th round this year as well. Yeah, Gargiulo. So they have 4 options there. I have to imagine, Todd, that you want your starting offensive line solidified as early as possible, especially a guy in the center, where not only is he surrounded by 2 other guys in the middle of the offensive line, but he's also probably pretty important in making checks at the line as well, and communication. Like, you don't want to rush the process, but also if you probably want to name that guy as soon as you can.
Yeah, that line is all about continuity. You got to get those guys to be one unit as quick as possible. You don't want to have a rotation there or any indecision there. So it's important for them to figure it out for the O-line, also for Bo Nix or whoever the quarterback is. Like, I need to know, who I'm taking snaps from. You got to be able to feel underneath there and know who you're working with. Eyes closed, you got to know who you're working with. No. Glad I didn't play quarterback. Didn't have to do that.
Better to be quarterback or center?
Oh, that's tough, man. That's tough.
Do you like to feel or do you like to be felt?
Give me shotgun.
Yeah, quarterback shotgun. Get under there. No.
Shotgun.
Yeah, no.
Really quick, hit us with a thumbs up if you're tuning in with us on the Twitter chat. We have way more people tuning in with us than we do likes right now. We really appreciate everyone that tunes in, and also drop a super chat. We still got a few more minutes of the show.
Oh, and if you're watching on Twitter, watch on YouTube.
Yes. We're doing a new thing where we're going live on Twitter, but if you want to comment, you want a better experience, you want to be able to drop us a thumbs up, make sure to go to YouTube, DNVR Sports over on YouTube. All right, you guys got anything else that you're looking to see? Or do we throw it all out there?
I think that's most of it. I mean, there's the punter competition. I don't think we care too much about that at this point. We could talk about that in training camp.
Yeah.
There's too much more interesting stuff happening. I don't think so. I think we basically covered all of it.
Perfect.
Safety, I guess. You'd
Yeah.
imagine PJ Locke is the starter, but Caden Stearns could give it a run for sure.
And I'm curious if Brandon Jones is going to be that every down starter. The
He's
Broncos
gotta be.
have had that from Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson for the past 5 years, where those guys don't leave the field unless they're suspended. They're on there every single play. And I'm curious because Brandon Jones was not that guy last year. He played less than 50% of the snaps. We know that PJ has played when he's been asked to. Caden's played when he's been healthy. But even when healthy, he's been on and off the field. So I'm curious if Vance takes a very different approach. And instead it's like a rotation of these 3 or 4 guys. Or if he's going to go with just 2 guys. And then if one of them gets hurt, touch wood, that then they bring someone else in. Thanks for that, Todd.
Yeah, we need to, I think 2 solid starters. I think DBs in general, they never rotate unless there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be an issue or the guy really can't do well in certain situations. But if you have some solid players, you should be able to just line up 4 DBs and they play the entire game. You bring a 5th one on, maybe in a nickel or a dime package. But hopefully there's no rotation.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to see
Occasionally might take one off in like a goal line formation or something, but that's about it. But yeah, and I don't think the Broncos should sign Jamal Adams, but when the stuff with Drew Sanders happened yesterday, I did kind of think Jamal Adams would be like kind of the perfect replacement for Drew Sanders.
What? You saying Jamal Adams put him at outside linebacker
I
and have him
mean,
rush the
because
passer?
he's not.
You don't have any coffee this morning.
Well, no, but he's
think
not.
that's what it
He's
is.
not like a deep safety. Like you can't play him back there.
Yeah.
So he basically is a linebacker, and as a linebacker, he's kind of like that hybrid. Like you almost call it like a big nickel with him playing nickel. And Drew Sanders isn't technically that, but that's what Drew Sanders did in college, And so,
But Drew Sanders is a outside linebacker.
yeah, but
pass
I mean,
rusher.
you use him in those same ways. Like he's at his best when you're just blitzing him off the edge. Like that's like the plus trait, and then everything else is just kind of like. So you can do that, but you could also like drop him in those like short zones, and he would be he can cover himself.
We're just letting it happen.
I can't
We're
let
just
this
letting it
happen.
happen and see
They're
where it
talking about
goes.
moving a box safety to outside linebacker.
Yeah,
what are
that's
we
what he's
doing
doing,
here?
You don't move it. You don't move it.
Thank you, Kale. I thought
You
it was
don't
going
move
crazy.
it, but they do this. It's the same thing as like, it's like Greg Dulcich and Lil Jordan Humphrey basically do the same thing. Like they
I don't think
they
I
play different positions, but they like you never really play Dulcich in line, and Lil Jordan's always in the slot, and they both are like Lil Jordan has like the block. So it's kind of that same thing, but on the defensive side of the ball where Jamal Adams, like you want him playing in those same areas of the field and doing basically the same things from him. You just call it a different position,
Not really, no.
right, Todd?
Don't bring me into this.
No. Like I'm not crazy though, right? Like if you're looking for like that kind of third down weapon that you kind of play out there, like Jamal Adams is kind of that guy.
It's just different. Like even though Jamal blitzes sometimes, it's a very different, I guess, situationally than you would blitz him because you don't want Jamal going up against O tackles all game. You want Drew Sanders. You think he can hold his own in that regard. So I think it is different. But does Jamal blitz off the edge sometimes? Absolutely.
And that's like the point of it. And that's the thing is like I don't think you really want. You do want Drew Sanders to become like a real outside linebacker, but he didn't do it last year. And you have so many guys that like he probably wasn't just going to be like your 3-4 outside linebacker. Like he'd rotate in or something. But what you're really missing is just the ability to have like an athlete who can blitz, he can drop back in coverage a little bit. And if you want like Jamal Adams does that same thing. It's not worth it to pay him as much as it probably costs, but like and more so it's the off the field stuff, but
All right, we got to
I'm
get out of
tempted.
here before Henry starts saying Bo Nix should be playing fullback
No,
for the
no, no,
Broncos. But we'll be back tomorrow, 11
Tight end,
a.m.
tight end,
James
tight end.
Palmer, Brian Balding, and rocking and rolling with us. Have a great Tuesday.
We all silly like the mayor.